What would you do if you found the world all changed when you came back? Welcome to a Fifth of Jack Gaming. And today we have a nice special little treat for you. What we're going to end up covering is Daniel Warren Johnson, Dead Earth. Or should I say, Wonder Woman, Dead Earth. It's a nice stellar story, but we'll wait until we end up doing a nice little voiceover for it. So this is going to be the dust jacket that you end up having. This is the front, spine, and back. And if you haven't noticed, this is a little bit wider of your normal books because it's a more magazine style. This is also a black label book from DC Comics. And now we'll shed the dust jacket and show you the inside. This is what it looks like, all flowed out. And then we got the inside that gives a little advert about Daniel Warren Johnson and stuff that he's worked on. And all we have is Wonder Woman, killer art for that. That covers that. And then this looks so amazing right off the get-go. This magazine style is kind of a little bit pain in the butt to put on the wall. Or not on the wall, but in the bookcase. But you get to end up seeing this nice stellar art. The spine and the back. And then the good old stretch all the way through. Have to say it's nice and amazing looks. It's nice and amazing how it ends up looking. The book does add some stuff to it, but what we're going to end up doing is we're going to jump over to Hoopla, be able to show you what we ended up having digitally wise for this book. Beware that art's going to be awesome, but it could be a little bit graphic at times, and it does have some materials, I guess, that won't be for the younger kids. So this is going to be a parental advisory advice. So here we are at the cover that you'll end up being able to see. You can end up watching this over on Hoopla, or you can end up reading it. Hoopla is a free access that you can have at some libraries that end up offering it. And from this point forward, we're going to have a nice little voiceover that's going to be going on with this. So we'll end up synapsing the story, going over it. So viewers' discretion is advised, because there's a bunch of graphic stuff that can end up happening. With that said, let's dive into the sauce. We start off with a brief synopsis of how she was made, the events that ended up happening, and the event that caused the entire dead Earth. And then we end up having a human that crashes down, lands onto her tube because he was getting attacked by a creature, cracking it open, in that process freeing Diana Troy, aka Wonder Woman. There's a mini battle that's coming right out of the tube, and then she finds out that she doesn't have her gauntlets, and she finds out that she's not as strong as she used to be. Where it's found out that she's in the Batcave. She ends up finding out that Batman ended up becoming a bat skeleton and takes his utility belt to be able to help her out with anything that's coming up her way. But before she ends up grabbing that belt, she ends up finding out what the world looks like. A complete dead Earth. She suits back up, goes over with that little tribe that ended up helping her, and go back over to the city to help the humans. Fast forward a bit, we end up finding her facing against a big old cheetah. And then we ended up finding out that this isn't just the normal cheetah. This is the one that she ended up facing way before. With changes though. While in this battle, we end up getting a bunch of horde of these weird creatures coming over and trying to take over this human population. And that's where we end up seeing the destruction and the beatdown of this entire thing. And this is where she ends up getting the faith of most of the human population left here in this city. She has one choice, is to be able to bring her over to the Mascara for her own protection. Along in the journey, we end up finding different ways where she ends up abandoning the humans for her sisters, the Amazons. We end up finding out her mothers went through a little shocking change, and we ended up finding out what the use of these gauntlets / bracers are, which are to limit her power, because without them, she is limitless. Well, not currently, but in the main story. We end up finding out that the missiles are coming over at the Mascara. She ends up dropping those gauntlets to unlimit her power, And then we end up seeing the Superman come over and being a little bit too late, and they end up tumbling where she ends up being Superman with a punch to the chest with a handful of kryptonite, in the process killing him. And then we end up having her end up going into this tube that we originally saw her in the first place by Batman. This tube is where she ends up losing the powers, but later on it ends up changing. With a little antidote from an unknown. Alright, so we're going to take this over, we're going to slide it back, give our final thoughts about the book, how we rate the book, and, well, obviously wrap this up with a nice pretty little bow. This story was a different kind of style that you end up having. It's a 4-issue story you'll end up reading. And I know the pictures kind of make the little word bubbles a little bit harder to be able to read. But the main reason that we're going through that wasn't to be able to read it. It was to get a general idea of the art and the stuff that you can end up getting with it, as we ended up giving what we ended up thinking about the book. So, what did we think of the story? It has a nice solid progression that goes along with it, and it deals with the fallout of choices that have been made and choices that's going to be made during the journey. You end up seeing stuff that ends up added into it, where you end up having obviously the Batman belt, a few other things that goes along with it, and it can get a little bit morbid at times. So I wouldn't give this to a little youngster or anything like that, but I do enjoy the story that comes over with it, and I enjoy the process of that story coming over. I would honestly give this a 9 out of 10. It's a solid book to be able to pick it up. Daniel Warner Johnson's art is amazing. Spicer does a nice job with that. And honestly, it's a black label, so it's going to be a little bit out of the canon that's going to be over with it. So it's not going to be something that you're going to have to be thinking, oh, lore-wise, and you don't have that entire back lore of lore. However, it's a good idea to have a basic idea of characters. I did have that shocking moment where she ended up actually taking the skeleton of a certain someone in red and blue and ended up using it as a makeshift weapon. And I thought that was a little bit different. And it was kind of a little bit more of like a, do I dare say, heavy metal. But overall, I did enjoy the story and the progression that it ended up going, like I said before. Now, if you're liking the content that we're putting out, like, subscribe, and hit that little bell icon to be notified about any of our content that we come out with. It's also important to be saying that you can go visit Organic Price Books, where you can use the discount code AFIPAJACK to save $2 off. Or if you have 4 more books, you can use the code JACKITTOGETHER to save 5% off your entire order instead. Orders of $30 or more ends up getting free shipping, so you can pick up a copy of your own Dead Earth. Or if you're looking for other books, that's a nice little spot to be able to find it. Yes, we do end up getting a little commission off that, but that helps us to be able to fill the library and bring over the stories to you that we ended up reading. Thank you for watching, and until next time, we'll see you later.